I'm about to tell you the 5 strangest ways people became millionaires. And trust me, the last one is the weirdest of them all. Most people think you need to be born rich, or have the perfect business plan, or go to fancy schools with big degrees. But these 5 people, they had none of that. Some of them didn't even finish college. One of them was living on the street with his child. Another had only $5 in her pocket, and still they made it. They didn't have powerful friends. They didn't go to expensive business schools. You know, the kind where people pay thousands just to learn how to run a company. They just had an idea, or a skill, or a dream that refused to die. And most of all, they took action. Each of these stories is real. Each one can be verified. And each one will prove to you that the road to wealth doesn't have to be normal. It just has to be yours. Let's begin. I want you to picture a man standing in a public bathroom at 2 in the morning, holding the stall door shut with his foot while his little boy sleeps on his shoulder. That man is Chris Gardner. In 1981, he has no home, no college degree, and no family who can bail him out. What he does have is a stubborn dream to give his son a life where fear does not decide what they can or cannot do. Chris works during the day selling medical equipment, but the commissions barely cover food. One afternoon, he sees a stockbroker step out of a red Ferrari and asks him, "What do you do and how do you do it?" The driver smiles and says, "I'm a stockbroker. All you need is to be good with numbers and good with people." That sentence cracks something open inside Chris. He decides on the spot to become a stockbroker, even though he can't even afford bus fare most days. Weeks later, he lands a meeting at a brokerage firm. But on the morning of the interview, he is arrested for unpaid parking tickets. He shows up the next day wearing the same paint-splattered clothes he had on when the police took him in. No suit, no tie, just determination and brutal honesty. He tells the partners, "I may not have the looks today, but give me a week and I will outwork every person in this building." They give him an unpaid internship. No salary, only a hope. Now the real fight begins. Each dawn at 5, he drops his son at a daycare that accepts children on charity, races to the office, studies stock charts he barely understands, and makes phone calls until his voice breaks. At night, the daycare is closed and shelters are full, so he and his boy ride trains until they find an unlocked church basement or, on the worst nights, that same bathroom stall. He keeps a small spiral notebook where he scribbles every new term he learns: asset liability, price-earnings ratio, reading it under streetlights while his son dozes against his arm. Chris sets himself a rule: dial at least 200 prospects every single day. He shaves seconds off the process by skipping hellos and goodbyes, by memorizing phone extensions, by standing so the urgency vibrates through his voice. The other interns think he's reckless. The managers notice he books more meetings than anyone else. He tells his son, "This part of our life is called running." And he runs. 16 months after starting, he passes the Series 7 exam on the first try. He earns a real desk and a real paycheck. On his first commission day, he stares at the numbers and cries so hard in the stairwell he can't speak. The bathroom nights, the hunger, the humiliation, all of it has cashed out into a future. But he doesn't stop. He studies market open and market close, teaches himself options, futures, bonds. 5 years later, he opens his own brokerage, Gardner Rich, with $10,000 in a single belief: personal pain, converted into empathy, is the strongest sales tool on earth. He grows the firm, sells a minority stake for multi-millions, and eventually becomes a man who hires people others might overlook because he knows what overlooked talent can do. What can you and I steal from Chris Gardner's story? First, circumstances are facts, not verdicts. Second, relentless activity beats perfect conditions. 200 calls a day from a homeless father outran Ivy League resumes. Third, when your why is bigger than your fear, discipline becomes automatic. Every time Chris wanted to quit, he looked at the sleeping boy he loved more than his own comfort and dialed the next number. So if you are sitting in a warm room with a roof, you already start ahead of Chris Gardner 0. Take his rule. Write down the one action that moves your dream forward and do it 200 times before the day ends. When doubt whispers, remember the man who turned a locked bathroom into a launch pad. Your obstacles are real, but so is your capacity to outrun them. Chris proved it. Now it's your turn. Sarah Blakely, the woman who sold footless pantyhose and became a billionaire. Picture a 27-year-old door-to-door fax machine saleswoman in Atlanta, Georgia. Her name is Sarah Blakely. She makes cold calls all day, gets told no 99 times out of 100, drives a used Chevy, and lives in a tiny apartment that leaks when it rains. One sweltering summer night, she wants to wear white pants to a party, but her control-top pantyhose have ugly seams and her feet are sweating in open-toe sandals. With scissors and desperation, she cuts the feet off the pantyhose. Suddenly her legs look smooth, her waist feels firm, and her feet can breathe, but the fabric rolls up at the ankles. The next morning she wakes up thinking, if I can fix that roll-up problem, millions of women will thank me. She has no fashion degree, no contacts in textiles, and only $5,000 in savings, money she earned from her commission job. Sarah spends weeks calling hosiery mills in North Carolina. Mail factory owners hang up on her again and again. Finally, one mill owner mentions her idea at dinner. His daughters shout, "Dad, that's brilliant. Tell the lady yes." He invites Sarah to visit. She drives 5 hours after work, pitches barefoot on a concrete floor, and wins their help to make prototypes. Next hurdle, patents. Attorneys quote her $5,000, exactly all her savings. She buys a legal patent manual from Barnes & Noble for $20 and writes the patent herself at her kitchen table, diagramming the product with crayons because she can't afford software. She files the paperwork and prays. Packaging time. She wants bold red letters so women can spot the product in a sea of beige hosiery boxes. The printer says minimum order 10,000 units, far more than her budget. She begs a smaller supplier to print 500 units, promising to pay up front. They agree. She names the brand Spanx because a harsh X sound feels strong and funny. Now comes the hardest sell, retail buyers. She calls Neiman Marcus headquarters every day for a month until the assistant finally transfers the line. On a 7-minute call, Sarah blurts, "Give me 10 minutes in person, and I'll show you why women will love this." The buyer agrees. Sarah flies Coach to Dallas, walks into the executive bathroom with the buyer, and changes into white pants. She shows the difference with and without Spanx right there under fluorescent lights. The buyer gasps, "We'll take it." They place Spanx in 7 stores. Sarah doesn't celebrate. She drives through every Neiman Marcus location and personally hand splits the boxes, placing Spanx next to the cash register so women can see them while paying. She also mails a basket of gifts, Spanx products, champagne, and personalized notes to every sales associate, bribing them with gratitude so they'll recommend the product. Sales explode. Oprah Winfrey stylist discovers Spanx, and Oprah names it one of her favorite things. Overnight orders skyrocket to 20,000 units. Sarah still packs and ships from her apartment, sleeping 3 hours a night surrounded by boxes. Within a year, Spanx revenue surpasses $10 million. Within a decade, Forbes names her the youngest self-made female billionaire in history. She owns 100% of the company. No investors, no dilution. Lessons you tattoo on your mind. Start with a personal itch. Your live frustration is a market signal. When gatekeepers hang up, call back tomorrow, and tomorrow, until a daughter, a cousin, or chance breaks the door open. Bootstrapping forces creativity. The crayon patent and mini print run saved equity she later owned completely. Sell the vision in person. Sarah literally stripped in a bathroom to prove her point. Show, don't just tell. Treat frontline staff like kings. They decide whether your product moves. If a woman with scissors, 50 rejection calls, and a $20 patent kit can flip shapewear into a billion-dollar empire, what disposable frustration in your life could you turn into gold? The next time something annoys you, shoes pinching, apps crashing, paperwork repeating, don't just curse it. Ask, could this be my Spanx moment? And then, like Sarah, cut the feet off doubt and run. Jan Koum, the immigrant who turned a free messaging app into $19 billion. Imagine a skinny teenager standing in the frozen food aisle of a California grocery store, counting food stamp coupons while pretending not to notice people staring. That was Jan Koum at 16. He and his mother had just fled Ukraine. They shared a one-bedroom apartment, no phone, no hot water some days. And his mother cleaned houses while chemotherapy drained her strength. Jan took janitor shifts after school, mopped floors, and studied computer manuals he checked out from the public library because buying books was impossible. Fast forward a decade, Jan is a security engineer at Yahoo, making decent money but feeling claustrophobic. In 2009, he buys an iPhone and notices the App Store, this new digital gold rush. His thought is simple. What if there were a phone book that showed a status next to each contact? At the gym, battery dying, can't talk. That way people could know when to call or text. He sketches the idea on yellow notepaper and calls it WhatsApp, a play on what's up. He has no investors and almost no savings because his mother passed away and medical bills swallowed everything. But he has a friend from Yahoo named Brian Acton. They code in Jan's cramped apartment. Heat turned low to save money. Instant noodles cooking on a single coil stove. The first version crashes constantly. App Store reviews say, junk, don't download. Most founders would quit. Jan just keeps debugging. January 2009, his startup money runs out. He applies for jobs at Facebook and Twitter and is rejected by both. He jokes on Twitter, looking forward to being unemployed and working on WhatsApp full-time. That rejection becomes freedom. He and Brian decide, no ads, no games, no gimmicks. Just a clean, private messaging tool that uses phone numbers instead of usernames. So even Jan's grandmother could figure out. He launches WhatsApp 2.0 with group chat, pushes an update, and goes to sleep. By morning, 250,000 people have downloaded. Servers crash. He races to buy secondhand Dell racks on Craigslist and installs them in a cheap co-location data center. Growth keeps surging. 1 million users, then 10 million, then 50 million. He refuses venture capital until the app's revenue, 99-cent download fees, proves the model. When Sequoia Capital finally invests, they write a check largely because Jan insists he will never sell user data or show banner ads. Sequoia partner Jim gets later says, it was the easiest pitch ever. No revenue plan except serve a user. We wrote the check because of his conviction. By 2014, WhatsApp has 450 million monthly users, growing faster than any product in history, faster than Facebook itself did. Mark Zuckerberg invites Jan to dinner. They walk a scenic trail behind Facebook headquarters and talk about connecting the world. On February 19, 2014, Facebook announces the purchase of WhatsApp for $19 billion in cash and stock. $19 billion. The same kid who once swept grocery store floors now signs a deal on the doorframe of the welfare office where he used to stand for food stamps. He asks Zuckerberg to meet him there for symbolism. Lessons you pocket from Jan Koum's rise. Poverty can sharpen, not dull, your focus. No distractions when survival is at stake. Rejection is redirection. Facebook said no to his resume. 5 years later, they wrote him the largest acquisition check in tech history. Build for simplicity and trust. No ads, no data mining. Just solve a single pain perfectly. Delay taking money until the product proves itself. Leverage grows when you don't need the cash. Stamp your values in stone. Jan refused ad tracking even when VCs pushed. That integrity built user love, which built the valuation. Tonight, when you doubt that your background or accent or bank balance disqualifies you, remember Jan Koum, a refugee who fixed one tiny annoyance, how to send a free text, and rode that focus from food stamps to billions. The next line of code, sketch, or sentence you write could be your WhatsApp moment if you stay relentless and keep the product pure. Robert L. Johnson, from selling cable packages door to door to America's first black billionaire. Imagine a young man in 1972 walking the streets of Washington, D.C., knocking on apartment doors to sell cable TV subscriptions nobody thinks they need. That man is Robert L. Johnson, fresh out of graduate school, earning commissions one living room at a time. Each evening he tallies $8 sign-up slips, pockets coins for city bus fare, and falls asleep replaying every no until it shapeshifts into tomorrow's maybe. While pitching cable, Robert notices something strange. Every channel on those early lineups is aimed at white audiences. Sitcom reruns, sports, news, Nothing speaks to the black households he's visiting. A thought flickers. What if there were a channel that looked like the people I grew up with? He files it away but keeps selling because rent waits for no dream. 3 years later, he lands a lobbying job at the National Cable Television Association. Now he's inside the industry, reading subscriber data no salesman ever sees. The stats scream an opportunity. Black viewers watch more TV hours per week than any other demographic, yet advertisers have nowhere specific to reach them. Robert's brain locks on the number, billions of untapped dollars. He borrows $15,000 from a friend and convinces a tiny cable operator to lease him 2 hours of satellite time on Friday nights. He calls the block Black Entertainment Television, BT for short. Content? Whatever he can get. Grainy R&B concert footage, talk shows filmed in borrowed studios, and public domain films starring black actors. He edits tapes himself with secondhand equipment and begs record labels to loan music videos in exchange for free promotion. Advertisers don't bite at first. Too niche, they say. So Robert walks into companies that sell shampoo, sneakers, soda to black consumers, and offers 60-second spots for dirt cheap rates. Some gamble. The ratings shock everyone. BET's 2-hour block pulls higher share than local news. Robert syndicates another 2 hours on Saturday, then weeknights. By 1983, BET becomes the first black-controlled company listed on the New York Stock Exchange. But the network almost dies 5 times. Cash flow crunches, satellite lease hikes, distribution fights. Robert takes no salary for months, maxes credit cards, and personally calls every cable system that drops BET. He tells operators, if you care about diversity, prove it on your dial. Many cave to pressure from black subscribers who flood switchboards. By the 1990s, BET airs 24/7, launches spring bling concerts, and Sunday gospel marathons. Hip-hop explodes, and BET is ground zero. Advertisers now line up, bidding on prime slots. Robert reinvests profits into film production, publishing, and hotels. In 2001, Viacom buys BET for $3 billion in cash and stock. Robert becomes America's first black billionaire and creates more black millionaires through employee stock than any company before him. Lessons carved into Johnson's climb. Spot the blind spot. He saw absence, no black channel, where others shrugged. Start embarrassingly small. 2 hours of shaky tape beat 0 hours of representation. Convert culture into currency. He gave advertisers the audience they couldn't reach anywhere else. Own distribution. Lobbying job taught him how cable gatekeepers think. Knowledge closed doors for others, but opened gates for him. Scale with community pressure. Viewers became advocates. Consumer voice forced cable carriers to keep BET on air. When you wonder whether your background limits you, remember Robert L. Johnson, a man who turned neglected culture into $1 billion signal beam. Ask yourself, what community, interest, or language is still invisible on today's platforms? Fill that channel in the dial, and the dollars will turn your way. Roman Abramovich. From selling plastic toy ducks on a Moscow street to controlling a $13 billion oil empire. Picture Moscow in 1987. Concrete apartment blocks, winter air so cold it stings your lungs, and open-air kiosks where young hustlers trade anything scarce. One of those hustlers is a 21-year-old orphan named Roman Abramovich. His parents died when he was 2. He bounced between relatives in Siberia and an industrial town called Ukhta. No inheritance, no connections, just a stall table and a small cardboard box filled with bright yellow plastic toy ducks imported from Poland. He chose ducks because they made children smile and desperate parents would pay. Roman stands 8 hours a day shouting over bus engines, palms numb, pockets thin. He listens more than he speaks, learning what sells fastest. Imported perfume, used car parts, cheap jeans. He reinvests every ruble back into inventory. Perestroika cracks open the Soviet economy. Private trade becomes semi-legal. Roman spots his opening and registers a tiny cooperative. Using a friend's borrowed typewriter, he creates OOYUT, literally Cozy Limited. The papers cost more than all his stock, but the license lets him travel to Latvia, fill a van with electronic gadgets, and shuttle them back to Moscow. Profit multiplies 10 to 1. Still, small goods mean small ceilings. Roman hears older traders rave about oil, black gold no kiosk vendor can touch. He befriends refinery managers, offers to handle difficult logistics, and soon brokers diesel shipments between regions. Collapsing Soviet oversight leaves loopholes the size of oil tankers. Roman squeezes through. 1995. The Russian government, desperate for cash, launches loans for shares, auctioning chunks of huge state companies for pennies on the dollar. Roman partners with banker Boris Berezovsky and stakes everything on a wild bid for Sibneft, a massive Siberian oil producer. Their consortium pays about $200 million for an asset worth billions. Overnight, the kid who once hawked rubber ducks controls one of the world's largest oil fields. But wealth in 1990s Russia is a knife fight. Rivals vanish, fortunes implode. Roman moves differently. He keeps low media profile, invests in regional development projects, and befriends local governors by paving roads and funding schools. Stability buys time, time compounds assets. By 2003, his stake in Sibneft is valued above $13 billion. That same year, he buys the failing English football club Chelsea for £140 million. London tabloids mock him as a mystery oligarch with toy ducks pass. Roman shrugs. He injects cash, signs star players, and within 2 years, Chelsea wins its first league title in half a century. Fans chant his name. His personal brand softened from oil baron to sporting savior. Lessons carved into Abramovich's unlikely climb. 1. Start microscopic. Think continental. Plastic duck profit funded the first import van. The van funded diesel deals. Diesel financed an oil empire. 2. Read the ground under your feet. Roman exploited perestroika's gray zones, while others clung to outdated rules. 3. All relationships are assets. He swapped compliments for contacts, repairs for political goodwill. Network capitalized faster than cash. 4. Play long games in volatile arenas, where others grabbed and flaunted. He reinvested quietly, buying resilience before luxury. 5. Rebrand boldly when the story changes. Owning Chelsea shifted global perception from cold oligarch to passionate patron, unlocking deals beyond Russia. So when you look at your own version of a cardboard box, maybe a freelance gig, a thrift store flip, a $100 crypto experiment, ask, what is the next larger arena this box could open if I reinvest every cent in every lesson? Roman Abramovich turned squeaking yellow ducks into billions of barrels of oil. Your starting stall might feel small, but scale lives in the habit of rolling every gain into the next bigger bet, and in daring to spot opportunity where others see only chaos. Take a slow breath and hold these 5 lives in your mind at once. Chris Gardner slept in a locked bathroom with his little boy and still dialed 200 numbers a day until one call changed everything. Sarah Blakely sliced the feet off her own pantyhose, wrote a patent with crayons, and turned scissors and stubbornness into a $1 billion shapewear empire. Jan Koum counted food stamps, learned code in a public library, and built a free app that Facebook later traded $19 billion to own. Robert L. Johnson noticed a missing channel on TV, borrowed $15,000, and filled the silence with the voices of millions, becoming America's first black billionaire. Roman Abramovich sold plastic toy ducks in a freezing Moscow market, rolled every ruble into the next hustle, and ended up steering oil tankers and a Premier League club. Different countries, different decades, same pattern. 1, they started where they were with what they had, even when that was nothing. 2, they solved one real problem for one real group of people. 3, they reinvested the first small wins instead of celebrating them. 4, they turned rejection into redirection and kept moving. 5, they refused to let circumstance outrank determination. You might not be homeless, sewing fabric in a kitchen or shivering at a street stall, but you have your own version of not enough. Let these stories burn that excuse to ash. Tonight, pick the smallest painful problem in your life or your community. Draft one imperfect solution. Launch it before it feels safe. Then do what they did. Learn, iterate, and roll every gain into the next layer of the dream. 5 strange paths. 1 unbreakable truth. Wealth favors are relentless. Your move,